This is a glass of creamy, delicious, nutty-tasting milk. But what if I told you we made it without a single almond, without any nuts at all? What if I told you it comes from a plant you could have growing infinitely in your backyard? A plant that asks for almost nothing and gives you back one of history's most fascinating superfoods. This isn't science fiction, it's a forgotten secret. For thousands of years, ancient cultures relied on this food for energy, for medicine, and for a sweet, refreshing drink that has survived to this day. And yet, in our modern world, we've pretty much forgotten all about it. We've traded this tough, allergen-free powerhouse for fragile, expensive, and environmentally demanding alternatives. Today we're going on a little trip of culinary archaeology. We're going to literally dig up the story of a lost food of our ancestors. We'll look into the mystery of why it vanished from our plates, and most importantly, we're bringing it back to life right here in this kitchen. We're going to make infinite milk from a plant that could change the way we think about food forever. It feels like we're living in the golden age of plant-based milks. Walk into any grocery store and the options are just overwhelming. Almond, soy, oat, cashew, coconut, pea. The list keeps going. The global market for these dairy alternatives is an absolute behemoth, a multi-billion-dollar industry that has totally changed our eating habits. And on the surface, this seems like a huge win. People are choosing plant-based options for their health, the environment, and for ethical reasons. And in many ways they're right. Almost every plant-based milk has a smaller carbon footprint and uses less land than traditional dairy. But behind this green-looking facade, there's a paradox. A bunch of inconvenient truths we don't often talk about. Let's start with the poster child of the plant milk revolution, almond milk. It's the most popular choice in a lot of countries, but it comes with a steep environmental price tag. It's famous for its massive water consumption. Most of the world's almonds are grown in California, a region that has been battling severe and worsening droughts for years. But the paradox gets deeper when you look at what's actually in the carton. Grab a typical bottle of store-bought almond milk and read the ingredients. You'll find that the milk often contains just 2 to 3% almonds. Now, this isn't exactly a scam, it's just how it's made. But it means you're mostly paying for water. The creaminess and texture aren't coming from a ton of almonds, they come from a cocktail of additives. Gums like gellan or xanthan, emulsifiers like sunflower lecithin, and often added oils and flavorings to fake the richness that isn't really there. This is the plant milk paradox. We grab these products to feel closer to nature, to be healthier and more sustainable, but we often end up with a highly processed product, watered down and engineered to feel like something it's not. It's expensive, it can be a burden on the environment, and for millions of people with nut allergies, it's completely off the table. What if there was another way? What if there was a plant that didn't need tons of irrigation? A plant that made a milk so naturally creamy and sweet it didn't need a laundry list of stabilizers and thickeners? A plant that wasn't a nut at all, making it safe for everyone? That plant exists. It has for millennia. And our ancestors knew all about it. We just have to remember where to look. The solution to our plant milk paradox isn't some new invention. It's an ancient treasure. It's called Cyperus esculentus, but you might know it by its more common and honestly much cooler names, the earth almond or the tiger nut. Now, the first and most important thing to know is that a tiger nut is not a nut. Let me say that again. It is not a nut. It's not a legume or a grain either. It's a tuber, a small, wrinkled, marble-sized root vegetable that grows on the root system of a type of sedge grass. Think of it more like a tiny sweet potato than an almond. This one fact is a game changer because it means everything we make from it is totally free from tree nut allergens, making it one of the safest, most inclusive foods on the planet. So, if this plant is so great, why did it disappear? Why isn't tiger nut milk sitting on every supermarket shelf? The answer takes us way back into prehistory. The story of the tiger nut begins long before farming, long before civilization as we know it. Some of the most interesting, though still debated evidence, points to a famous figure in paleoanthropology, Paranthropus boisei, an early human relative who lived in East Africa over 1 million years ago. He was nicknamed Nutcracker Man because of his enormous jaw and massive teeth. For decades, scientists were stumped. His jaw looked like it was built to crush hard things, but the wear on his teeth suggested he ate soft, gritty foods. A 2014 Oxford University study proposed a neat theory that could solve this puzzle: a diet heavy in tiger nuts. These tubers, eaten raw, are starchy and abrasive, which would explain the tooth wear. Chewing them for hours would be necessary to get to the nutrients, which explains the powerful jaw. It's been hypothesized that these humble tubers may have been a critical food source, making up a huge portion of our ancient relatives' diet for nearly 1 million years. As we move forward in time, the evidence gets a lot clearer. In ancient Egypt, the tiger nut wasn't just foraged, it was actually one of humanity's first cultivated crops. Archaeologists have found dried tiger nuts in tombs from 3000 BC, left as food for the afterlife. They were found in the tomb of the vizier Rekhmir and even inside the stomachs of mummies. The Egyptians ate them every way you can imagine, boiled in beer, roasted, or ground with honey to make a sweet treat. They were so important to the culture that they were listed in funerary offerings and used as medicine. The tiger nuts journey didn't stop in Egypt, though. When the Moors expanded into Spain in the 8th century, they brought the tiger nut with them. They planted it in the fertile soil around Valencia, where the climate was just perfect. And there, the tiger nut was turned into its most famous creation, horchata de chufa. This sweet, creamy, chilled drink became an icon of Valencian culture. There's a great story, though it's probably more legend than history, that claims the drink got its name when a young girl offered it to King James I of Aragon. After tasting it, he supposedly declared, "This is not milk. This is gold, my dear." Or, as the legend goes in Valencian, "Això no es let. Això es horchata." So we have a food that sustained our earliest ancestors, was prized by the Egyptians, and became liquid gold in Spain. Where did it go? The decline of the tiger nut is really a story of industrialization. Modern agriculture is a business built on scale and efficiency. It loves massive monoculture crops like corn, wheat, and soy. Plants that give predictable, high yields and often rely on patented seeds and chemicals. The tiger nut doesn't fit that model. It's actually considered a weed in many parts of the world, including North America, because it spreads so well on its own. There's no patent on a plant that grows wild on 6 continents. In the ruthless economics of big agriculture, the resilient, self-sufficient tiger nut was just pushed aside for more controllable, more profitable commodities. It wasn't forgotten because it was inferior, it was forgotten because it was too free. Armed with this incredible history, I started my own quest to rediscover this lost food. And the most amazing part is where I found it. I didn't have to import it from some remote village or buy it from a fancy specialty store. In many parts of the world, this plant is literally in our backyards, in parks, along riverbanks, and in gardens. This is Cyperus esculentus, the tiger nut plant. It looks pretty unassuming, like a clump of grass. But the magic is all happening underground. The plant sends out these runners, called rhizomes, and at the end of them, it forms the tubers, the little tiger nuts. And this is the key to its infinite nature. You plant one single tuber in the spring, and by the end of the season, it can form hundreds, sometimes even thousands, of new tubers. Those new tubers will then sprout into new plants next year, creating a dense, self-propagating, and totally sustainable patch. It's a closed-loop food system, no seeds, no fertilizer, no pesticides needed. Because it grows so eagerly in many parts of North America, it's actually classified as a noxious weed. Farmers see it as a pest that competes with their crops, and honestly, it's one that's pretty hard to get rid of because of its deep network of tubers. But as the old saying goes, a weed is just a plant whose virtues haven't been discovered yet. For us, this weed status is actually an incredible opportunity. It's a sign of resilience. It's proof that this is a plant that really wants to grow. So I decided to grow my own in a pot, just to see this infinite cycle for myself. After a season, it was time to harvest. The experience is a bit like digging for treasure. You pull up the grassy tops, and at first, you just see roots. But as you sift through the soil with your hands, you start to find them. Small, firm, wrinkled orbs clinging to the root system. Each one is a little package of stored energy and history. When you first hold a dried tiger nut, it's honestly hard to believe it could make anything creamy. It's hard as a rock, deeply wrinkled, and honestly looks more like a pebble than a food. It has a faint, sweet, earthy smell, but it really gives no hint of the flavor locked inside. The promise of milk feels so far away at this stage, which just makes the transformation even more magical. This is our raw material, ancient, tough, and packed with potential. Now, the real experiment begins, turning these little stones into liquid gold. Before I show you how to unlock the secrets of this ancient tuber and turn it into the creamiest milk you've ever tasted, I want to ask a quick favor. If you're enjoying this journey into our edible past and think forgotten foods might hold keys to a better future, please take a second to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're always digging up lost recipes and forgotten flavors, and we'd absolutely love for you to join us on the next adventure. This is where the ancient world meets the modern kitchen. The process of turning these hard, dry tubers into a smooth, delicious milk is surprisingly simple. It just takes two things: water and time. The first and most critical step is soaking. You absolutely cannot skip this. The dried tiger nuts are incredibly dense, and soaking is what really rehydrates them, softens them, and wakes up their natural sweetness and creaminess. I put 1 cup of dried tiger nuts into a bowl and cover them completely with filtered water. The ideal soaking time is somewhere between 12 and 24 hours in the fridge. The longer they soak, the softer they get, and honestly, I find a full 24 hours gives the creamiest result. If you're in a hurry, there's a hack. Cover them with boiling water and let them sit for a couple of hours. It works, but the cold, slow soak is definitely better. After 24 hours, the transformation is pretty amazing. The tubers have plumped up, absorbing the water and becoming much smoother. They've gone from being little pebbles to something more like a soaked chickpea in texture. The soaking water itself has turned a little cloudy and has a pleasant sweet smell. At this point, I drain off that water and give the tubers a good rinse. This just helps make sure the final milk has the freshest flavor. Now for the magic part. This is where we turn a solid into a liquid. The ratio here is key to getting a rich, creamy consistency. A great starting point is 1:4 by volume. 1 cup of soaked tiger nuts to 4 cups of fresh filtered water. I add the soaked and rinsed tiger nuts to a high-speed blender. Pour in the 4 cups of fresh water, and that's it. No sweeteners, no emulsifiers, no additives. The magic is all in the tuber itself. I pop the lid on and start the blender, going from low to high. The sound is incredible. At first it's loud and choppy, but within seconds it softens into a smooth whir. And inside the blender, the clear water almost instantly turns into a beautiful, milky white liquid. You can see the tiny particles of the tubers being completely pulverized, releasing all their starches, fats, and sugars into the water. I let it go on high for about 2 minutes to get it as smooth as possible. Once it's blended, you have a frothy white liquid that already looks and smells like milk, but there's one last step to get that silky smooth texture we're after: straining. Just like making homemade almond milk, you need to separate the liquid from the pulp. I use a nut milk bag, which is just a very fine mesh bag made for this. You could also use a few layers of cheesecloth. I place the bag over a large bowl and slowly pour the blender's contents into it. The creamy milk flows right through, leaving the pulp behind. Then comes the satisfying part. I gather the top of the bag and just start to squeeze, wringing out every last drop of that creamy goodness until the pulp inside is as dry as I can get it. And what's left in the bowl is the finished product, pure tiger nut milk. So what about the pulp? Don't throw that out. This is basically wet tiger nut flour. You can spread it on a baking sheet and dry it in a low-temperature oven, then use it in gluten-free baking for cookies, breads, or granola. It's part of the infinite idea. Nothing goes to waste. Or, for a more traditional treat, you can make authentic Valencian horchata. You'd just add a cinnamon stick and maybe a strip of lemon zest to the blender with the tiger nuts and water, and then sweeten it to taste after straining. It's usually served ice-cold and is one of the most refreshing drinks you'll ever have. But for now, I want to taste it in its purest form. Just 2 ingredients: tiger nuts and water. The result is this beautiful, creamy white liquid. It's time for the true test. All right, this is the moment of truth. A journey that started millions of years ago with our ancestors and ended right here in my kitchen. I've poured the fresh tiger nut milk into a glass. First thing you notice is the color and texture. It's a beautiful, opaque, creamy white. It doesn't look thin or watery. It has a real body to it, coating the inside of the glass when I swirl it, a lot like whole dairy milk would. There are no signs of it separating. It's perfectly emulsified, all thanks to the natural properties of the tuber. Next, the smell. I bring the glass up, and the scent is subtle but distinct. It's not planty or beany. It's a clean, slightly earthy sweetness with a definite nutty undertone, kind of like almonds or pecans, which is wild considering there isn't a nut anywhere near this. There's also a starchy, almost oaty quality to the smell. And now the taste. I'm taking my first sip. Wow. Okay, that is really remarkable. The first thing is the texture. It's so smooth and creamy. It has a full-bodied mouthfeel that's genuinely satisfying, way richer than what you usually get from store-bought almond milk. It's more like a good oat milk or even 2% dairy milk. There's zero grittiness, just a silky, velvety liquid. Then the flavor hits. It's naturally sweet, not sugary sweet, but a gentle, wholesome sweetness that comes right from the tuber. It's a complex flavor. There's that distinct nuttiness I smelled. It tricks your brain into thinking almond, but it's softer. There are earthy notes, a hint of vanilla, and the finish is just clean and refreshing. It tastes real. It tastes like food, not something designed in a lab. So the verdict: this isn't just a good alternative. In many ways, it's better. Compared to the often watery, additive-filled milks, this is in a whole different league. The creaminess is natural, not manufactured. The sweetness is built in, not added, and the flavor is complex and delicious all on its own. You could happily drink a cold glass of this straight up. This is, without a doubt, a huge success. This forgotten food doesn't just live up to its history, it blows past the hype. So we made a delicious, creamy, nut-free milk from a plant that grows like a weed. But this is about so much more than a new recipe. It's about shifting how we look at the world around us. This glass of milk is all about a kind of resilience that we've mostly lost in our modern food system. This plant thrives on neglect. It spreads itself. It offers us nutrition from the ground right under our feet without asking for massive amounts of water, pesticides, or fertilizers. In a time of climate change, water shortages, and rising food costs, rediscovering plants like the tiger nut isn't just a fun history lesson. It's a critical step toward a more sustainable future. Our ancestors got this. They didn't have global supply chains or industrial farms. They had to rely on their deep knowledge of the edible world around them. They knew which weeds were food, which roots were medicine, and which tubers held the energy to survive. We've traded that local wisdom for a fragile, globalized system that's efficient in the short term but incredibly vulnerable in the long term. And the tiger nut is packed with nutrients. In its whole form, it's an incredible source of prebiotic fiber known as resistant starch, which feeds the good bacteria in our gut. It's rich in minerals like magnesium and potassium and healthy fats, similar to olive oil. While the milk we made has strained out most of that fiber, it still holds the essence of this nutritional powerhouse. This whole journey is a reminder that some of the best solutions aren't waiting in a lab. They're buried in history, waiting to be rediscovered. This is about reclaiming lost knowledge and seeing the abundance that nature provides if we just know where and how to look. From a possible food of our ancient relatives to a staple of ancient Egypt and a celebrated drink in Spain, the tiger nut has proven its value over and over. We saw how it was pushed aside by a farming system that values profit over resilience, and we've proven just how easy it is to bring this ancient tradition back to life in our own homes. This glass of milk is more than just a drink, it's a statement. It's proof that we can create delicious, nutritious, and sustainable food from the most unexpected places. It's a taste of a forgotten past that could very well be the taste of a more resilient future. So, I want to ask you, what do you think? Would you try milk from a forgotten tuber? Do you think the future of food might be hiding in plain sight in the weeds and overlooked plants of our world? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey of culinary discovery. If you enjoyed digging into the past to find flavors for the future, don't forget to subscribe and join us for the next one.